name's Chris Allen, and this is the Chris Allen MMA show. Today, I'm being joined by one of Canada's most up-and-coming fighters at the moment. He's currently fighting in the UFC, winning his last fight by devastating fashion. It's Mr. Carl the Monster Nelson. Carl, welcome back, mate.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
No, I really appreciate it. As said in the past, you've always given me the time of day. So, thank you for taking time out of your day. As I've said to a lot of people, that's all we seem to have at the moment is time, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Definitely a slow time of year for pretty much everything.
So what have you been up to then? Like, obviously we know the case in England with Corona. We're all on lockdown at the moment. None of us can go to work or anything like that. But luckily the government are paying a large proportion of our wages for us, which is good. So I was just wondering, how's it working over in Canada? What's the news over there?
Yeah, so I think we're a little bit behind. I think it took a little longer to get here. So we are down to essential services now. So like restaurants and stuff are still going, but you can just get like takeout. You
Okay.
can't go in and sit down anywhere. Social distancing, so you're not really supposed to be within like 6 feet of
Yeah.
everyone else outside. Then obviously anybody that's been out of the country or has any type of symptoms is supposed to quarantine themselves for 14 days. But yeah, and it's slowly, kind of as time goes on, they're adding a little more restrictions here and there. But yeah, that's pretty much it so far.
It's pretty much the same story as the UK then, mate, to be honest with you. Same story here. We're not on total lockdown. You can still get some people, if you can work from home, or we call it a key worker. So a key worker is in you work for the hospital service, you're a doctor, supermarkets, delivery driver, because obviously they're still delivering food. Our supermarkets now, they only let so many people in at a time, things like that, because people
Yeah,
have been buying, you've probably seen on the internet in Canada, I'm sure as well, panic buyers.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, man. It's
yeah,
felt
yeah. I
like
don't think
Black
it's
Friday.
been.
It's felt like Black Friday in the stores recently.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it's been too bad here. Where I am right now, I'm a little closer to Toronto, and obviously Toronto is like the one of the biggest cities in Canada, so it's a little bit crazier here. But where I'm from, up in Huntsville, it's kind of ways out of the big city. We have a smaller population, so it's not so bad up there. And obviously we don't have nearly as many cases or anything. So
No, which is the most important thing because it's quite a little remote area I know you're from. And has that benefited yourself being able to get out and about to do training outside, knowing you're not in a built-up sort of town?
yeah, definitely. I can go out and I can do runs and bikes and stuff like that outside without. I'll see some people here and there, but there's so few, and obviously we just keep a lot of distance and stuff. And yeah, so it's not that big of a deal for me so far.
And the good thing is as well is that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure you're not at home alone. You've got the wife and the child as well, haven't you, at home to keep you occupied?
Yeah. So what I do is I'll spend some time down here at the gym, and then I'll go home and spend some time with them on the weekends and stuff.
Okay, so you're still technically training as normal sort of thing then.
Pretty much. So the gym is closed to the public and stuff, and yeah, so pretty much everything is shut down like that. But I still can work the bag and stuff, and I've got all the equipment here and the weights and the bikes and stuff. So yeah, so I've basically maintained my same training schedule, just doing obviously we don't have a bunch of people here to work with, but I can still keep my fitness up and stuff. And hopefully that way, once the UFC kind of sorts out what they're doing, maybe I could try and sneak on a card because I'll be in shape and ready to go.
That's it. Obviously, they're cancelling cards left, right, and centre at the moment. The most jinxed card ever could be versus Tony. Looks like it's going to be cancelled again, for the fifth time round. So everything's stopping. Everything in the UK, all the events here have stopped. Everything. UFC London would have been a big one over here. We didn't get that this year. So yeah, mate, it's definitely tough times, and it's good to see you're still positive about the whole situation.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna, when everything kind of blows over, I'm gonna come out of quarantine, in great shape and ready to go. From some of the other fighters I've seen online, from some of their social media, it looks like maybe some of them are taking some time off or gaining some weight and stuff, maybe getting a little out of shape. So I'm hoping, I'll be able to take advantage of that and be ready to go as soon as this everything clears.
Is the temptation not there sometimes when you're in lockdown, though, just to grab for those potato chips or those chocolates, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely with more time on my hands now to sit around, I feel hungry a lot more, and I want to snack and stuff. But also, I don't keep snacks here, so in order for me to get snacks, I got to go to the supermarket and stuff, and that's all a whole big thing. So trying to avoid all that stuff anyways, going out too much. So it's actually made it a little bit easier. I don't go to any fast food places. I don't go don't go and buy chocolate bars or anything. So
Fair play to you, mate, because I've spoken to a few fighters. I'm not going to mention any names, but they are struggling, because in the UK, it is really like locked down. You can't even go to the gym or anything like that.
mhm.
The police will actually stop you, and ask you, like, where are you going? It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, and it's good that everyone's taking this seriously, so we can kind of get over it as quick as possible. Obviously, if we didn't take it seriously, then it would continue to spread and grow and grow and grow. So hopefully, with everybody taking the measures that we're taking, we'll be able to kind of slow everything down and try and get back to normal sooner.
Of course, and I don't understand why like, I'm going to put my hands up. When this first all got announced, I was that person who says, look, this isn't that big. Everyone's overreacting. The media is blowing it out of the water, and I hold my hands up. I was incorrect, and it did spread a lot quickly. And people have to understand, if they're looking at cancelling, like in the UK, in Europe, we had the Euro 2020 soccer, tournament
Mhm.
cancelled. We've now the Olympics looks like it's going to get postponed. Like, these are big, big events. It's that people have to understand, if these are getting postponed or cancelled, surely it must be serious.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Pretty much, all professional sports are canceled right now. The UFC is trying to find a way to make it work. But yeah, I mean, everything, concerts, anything with a crowd, is being canceled. So yeah, I think, and then yeah, obviously, the sooner everyone else takes this seriously and stops going out and spending time with strangers, you just stay home, spend time with your immediate family and kind of wait it out, then yeah, hope we'll be able to get back to some UFC events and some sports and stuff again soon.
Yeah, exactly. And as I said, and also getting back to UFC, I'm sure you're absolutely itching to get back in there. After the win you had not too long ago against Polo Reyes. But I can't believe that was September last year. Now, was it? No, December last year, wasn't it?
September.
It was
Yep.
September, wasn't it? Yeah, I'm right. It was. You did fight in December as well, though, didn't you? If I remember rightly.
Nope, no.
No.
Fought in September and then haven't fought since.
Oh, of course, because Polo Reyes was the one in September in Mexico City, wasn't it? Yeah, man, what a
Yeah.
fantastic. So yeah, let's just very briefly talk about that for a second. So obviously your first two fights didn't go the way you wanted, but anyone who watches those fights can easily see that you were so dominant at times in those fights, and it was just very unlucky. And I'm not just saying that being biased, wearing the Carl Nelson T-shirt, not, you know what I mean. But personally, I thought it was just very unfortunate at times. But when you got to fight Polo Reyes, first of all, like, how did it feel, walking out for the third time, thinking, right, this is so important, this fight right now?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So my first couple fights, I think I was able to showcase some of my skills and stuff. But I think just with it being the big show and I don't think I prepared properly mentally and stuff. So I was able to get in and showcase what I can do. I just didn't put everything together properly. So going into my last fight there with Polo Reyes, I think I dialed everything in. I had gotten a better mental place. I wasn't so eager to go for the kill. I was kind of more relaxed and ready to just take my time and showcase my skills. And obviously, just changing my mindset a little bit, paid off huge in the fight. When I wasn't going out looking for the kill, then it just kind of came to me. So. But yeah, going in that fight, I was coming off two losses in the UFC, even though they were exciting. Obviously
Yeah,
you have to win to stay in the UFC. So I knew there was a lot riding on that one, and it was actually the one where I felt the calmest. It didn't really have as many nerves or anything. So yeah, it went well, and I feel like now that I've got that under my belt, if I go into my future fights with the same mentality, I think I'll be able to replicate that same outcome.
Well, you definitely gave your first two opponents something to work towards, though. It definitely wasn't any sort of walkover. Let's be honest, you know. And I remember you dropped was it Ferreira? Yeah, you dropped him, and I think it's one of my favourite pictures. I think you posted was if someone took a picture of him on the ground and you turning your back saying "get up" sort of thing, and that will always stick in my mind. That picture, man, you know. And so you dropped these guys. You gave them a hard time, and I'm so happy for you when you come through on Perez with that overhand right. And well, it all started with that devastating elbow, which I'm sure he'll have a mark to remember you by for a while now.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I think it was just not rushing it. We were in the clinch. I was taking my time, landing little shots, and then just kind of when the opening was there, I put a little extra on it, and then as soon as that landed, I knew that the opening was there. So I kind of waited for a little bit more, and then was able to capitalize when it happened without trying to rush in and force it.
Yeah, I loved how you had him up against the cage, and he was trying to get underhooks in you, and you slipped your right arm out, and I could see you just slowly just waiting for that arm to go down, and on the break, if you could call it a break, because you were straight back in on him again, and it was just
Mhm.
a lovely straight to the body overhand right, man. It was absolutely beautiful, man. Honestly, and I don't think he knew what hit him, and hey, there might have been some boos from the crowd, but I don't care what anyone says. That guy was definitely out on his feet. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he was the hometown guy, Mexican fighting in Mexico. So I think there'd be boos either way. But yeah, just because maybe it was a little controversial for them because he didn't go down, but you could see even after the fight, he didn't know where he was, and then they kind of sat him down on the stool, sat there for a couple of minutes, and then when they tried to bring him up to come to the center, when they raised my hand, he was still wobbling, still couldn't walk right, so he was pretty messed up.
Yeah, it was very humble of you as well at the end in your interview with Bisping, when you were saying, there's no point landing any shots that don't need to be landed. You're not out there to hurt the guy, you're out there to compete, sort of thing. And a lot of fight, and I think the ref did do a good job there. He stepped in at the right time, and I know you very well. You could have continued punching for days, couldn't you?
Yeah, and those punches would have been completely unblocked, so I would have been landing with 100% power on somebody that's unable to defend themselves, and that's exactly what the ref is there for. When he's not able to defend himself, then that's kind of when he steps in. I think that's where we were at that point.
Yeah, man. And I said, going back to when you said you were walking out as well, you could just see in your face, even though there were boos around and everywhere, being in enemy territory, you just had this pure focus on what you wanted to do. You could see you were looking at the cage. You only had one thing in your mind, and you haven't been given an easy run in the UFC so far. Your third fight, you're put again against a tough guy in enemy territory. Do you think that just shows Dana White, from your previous fights, that you do come out and fight, and it just shows what they know you're capable of?
Yeah, exactly. I think obviously going into the Diego fight, they didn't really know a whole lot about me. I was able to showcase some of my stand-up stuff. And then then we went against Matt Sales, and again I was able to showcase some of my stand up, some of my ground stuff. We just couldn't really bring it all together. And then I think they knew I was tough and knew I'm an exciting fighter, so they wanted to put me in there with someone like Polo, who's got some knockouts, who's exciting. He was coming down to 145 for the first time, and yeah, him being the hometown guy, I think it was I think they knew it would be an exciting fight.
Yeah, mate, that's another point as well. You're fighting a guy who's coming down in weight, and and he wasn't actually, to be honest with you, that much bigger than you. I think you're an inch smaller. I think the actual stats were in that fight. So did you expect to see a lot bigger man in front of you, or did you feel the difference in strength when you had him up against the cage?
I wasn't really expecting a whole lot. I think it was more I knew what he was expecting. He was coming down to 145, expecting a smaller opponent and maybe not so much power and stuff like that. So I just went in like it was any other fight. I mean, if he cuts down to 145, then he's in my territory, and I know at 145 I'm gonna be stronger. I'm gonna hit harder. So I wasn't too worried about any of that. I thought maybe he'd have, he'd be strong and stuff like that. But I still knew, if we tied up, that I'd be the stronger man.
As I said, you definitely showed that in there. I think he was slightly surprised. I think he felt coming down a weight class, he would have the size and the strength advantage, But yeah, he went again. He came across yourself, also a large man as well. Like, I know you don't cut too much weight. But yeah, fair play to you, mate. It was great to see you pull off the win, and yeah, can't wait to see what's happening next. And obviously that leads me on to my next question, mate. Are you allowed to talk about what's next, or have you been given any sort of idea of a time?
No, so just before the Corona thing happened, we were talking to them and we were looking at dates and stuff like that. But then, basically as soon as we started the talks, this kind of hit, and then obviously everyone at the UFC is so busy. First of all, trying to make the other cards work, and then the other cards fell through, and now they're all working on April 18th there, and looks like Khabib's out, and maybe they're still trying to make the show work. But yeah, I think they're just so busy trying to put something together that obviously they're not going to have time to plan, to have me fight whenever down the road. So I'm just going to stay ready, and then once they figure out a way to put on a show, then I'll let them know that I can step in, and yeah, hopefully they'll be able to take me in on short notice.
No, that's it. And I said you much deserve it. You deserve to get back in there, and I can't wait to see who they put against you. And I know what you're like. You'll fight anyone, anywhere. I know you will. I'm sure you'd jump in against some of these main events if you could.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I thought about trying to message him to say if Tony needs an opponent, I can make 155 right now, no problem. And yeah, again, I'm not a small 45er, so I think even at 55, I'm a good size.
Now that would be a fight to watch. Now imagine that. That'd be like the opportunity of a lifetime. But don't get me wrong, you're going to get there. To keep doing what you're doing. And as I said, Dana White likes people who put on fights. They like people who come to fight. You could win 5 fights in a row by laying on top of someone doing nothing, and Dana White won't put you anywhere near a top 5, top 10 opponent.
Yeah.
So yeah, this you're definitely doing it the right way, and fair play to you. So during all this crazy time at the moment, then just talk about. You said you're training at the gym as well at the moment. Do you actually train with? Are you allowed to have a training partner with you or a coach in the gym at the same time?
Yeah, so that's kind of what I do. I just have like one other training partner that's basically like that's just all we do. We come, we train, and then we just go home, and that's pretty much it. So neither of us are going out and seeing people. The gym isn't open to the public or anything, so we're able to get in a little bit of technical stuff and stay sharp, without risking spreading any of the coronavirus or anything.
That's good to hear. And looking back at your last 3 fights, you can see the improvements you made in your third one. Without giving too much away, is there anything in particular or anything you've picked up in your last few fights that you're really trying to work on at the moment a bit more?
So I have a lot of little tricks that I use in sparring and training every day that I haven't brought to the UFC yet. I think it was more of a mental thing. I wanted to get in there, get used to it, kind of stick to my basics, stick with what I'm really good at, get comfortable, and then I'll be able to start bringing in some of my fancier tricks and stuff. And just didn't have enough time in that last fight, obviously, to start bringing them out. But yeah, I think now that I'm a little more comfortable with the fighting in the UFC and different stuff, that I'll be able to start showcasing some even fancier and cooler tricks that I have.
You got to stop finishing fights so quickly, Carl. That's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hey, well, you can't stop a man, can you? You can't stop the man from doing what he does. And again, amazing result for you as well. What did it feel like, by the way? When you landed that punch and that crowd went silent. I bet that felt surreal for a second, and you thought, "Wait, what have I done?" You felt like you'd done something wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it felt, it was getting that first win in the UFC, which, it kind of felt exactly like what I thought it would feel like, but way better. It was kind of the accumulation of, basically my lifetime of work so far. I've been training martial arts now for 14, almost 15 years, with the goal to always be to get into the UFC, and and eventually win the UFC championship. But the first goal is just to get into the UFC. And I mean, I got into the UFC on short notice there and fought, and I lost those first 2 fights. So it didn't really feel like I couldn't really call myself a UFC fighter until I, got that first win under my belt. So getting that kind of solidified everything, and it proved that, I meant to be here in the UFC. I'm at the level of the other UFC fighters and stuff. So it just kind of solidified everything.
And obviously, it must just put fantastic confidence. Not saying your confidence is always high anyway, but to put that sort of confidence in yourself, to you prove to yourself that you do belong to be here, and all those sorts of things, must play a massive part in the game as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was obviously already in the back of my head, thinking, because I've sparred with other UFC fighters, trained with other UFC fighters, and I always knew I was at that level. But there's some guys that train amazing in the gym and they do really well, but when they go to fight, they just don't show up, and it just doesn't come together for them. So you always got that in the back of your head. Yeah, maybe I look good or I'm doing well against these UFC guys, but can I put it together, in front of the 20,000 people, or the millions of people watching, on TV and stuff? If because and then there's guys that train, they don't train well in the gym, and then but when on fight night they're able to just kind of pull it together and they're able to perform, like a game day performer. So you got to figure that out about yourself. And even though I knew that in the regional shows, I knew I'd show up and fight. I had to prove it to myself again on the big screen from the big stage.
Yeah, and I said you've done that especially well. You've had a great career as well through before the UFC as well. You're 13-3 now. 13 wins. It's absolutely fantastic. 16 fights. You're still young. Early in your career, the UFC and just generally in MMA, I'd say as well. You're only going to be learning more things going forward, and you could only improve from here, surely.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm still, still 28 right now, so I've still got a lot of time left. And yeah, I mean, as far as physically, my prime, I'm still a couple years out from my prime. So, physically, strength wise, speed wise, I'm still going to be getting faster and stronger. And yeah, and then technique, we're always working. From jujitsu to wrestling to kickboxing, Muay Thai, we're always adding stuff. So yeah, it's definitely only going to get better from here.
That's it, and it's already starting to show already. And I can't wait to see you follow in the footsteps of some of the greatest Canadians have had fight in the game, from GSP, obviously, Rory McDonald. The list goes on, obviously. And is that's got to be something that's part of your legacy as well, to be up there with these Canadian guys. These other Canadian fighters that have done so well in the UFC.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, as far as the goals go, get into the UFC, become a champion, become one of the greatest from Canada, and then become one of the greatest ever. So, we're going to just start picking off those goals.
That's it, mate. And again, and I've repeated it over and over again, and I cannot wait to see your fights. I'm always telling everyone to keep an eye on your fights, on the prelims, wherever they may be, and because they know you're always going to be in for a good fight. One more before I let you go. I know you don't call people out, you don't pick fights, but would you like to rerun back any of the previous two fights you had before moving on at all? Or I know you'll fight anyone, but if they offered you Matt Sales or Pereira again, would you quite happily take that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Matt Sales would be a perfect fight for me right now. I think he's coming off of a loss. I'm coming off of
Yeah.
a win. Maybe we could even that one out. And then yeah, Diego Ferreira. He's at 155. I think I can. With a right training camp, I could bring my weight up a bit and come in as a real 155 this time. And then with the cardio and stuff, I think I'd be able to avoid the takedowns and do the same thing that I did to him standing up, only I would be able to maintain it for 3 rounds if he was able to survive that. But I mean, he's doing so well right now. He's climbed the ranks up. He's getting close, I think, to a title shot. He's on a 6 or 7 fight win streak. So, I'm not too greedy. I'm not going to go and ask for that just yet. But yeah, definitely the Matt Sales I think would make sense. For my next fight or in my next couple of fights. And then yeah, once I'm able to prove myself a little bit more and get on the good terms with Dana and everyone, then I was like, yeah, I wouldn't mind going up to 55 and getting that one back from Pereira.
That's it. Are you quite happy to fight between 45 and 55, or are your coaches and yourself aiming just to stay at the 45 if possible, or are you open to all options?
I mean, I'm open. I'd like to solidify myself first. We've only got one win so far, so I'd like to get a couple and solidify myself at 145. But yeah, I mean, if something comes up short notice for 155, or if they really need me, then I can, I have no problem moving up to 155. I think my physical attributes and my skill level, I think would do well at 155 too. But yeah, I think just with the 145, I think I can be a champ at 145, and then yeah, maybe even go the same route as old Conor McGregor there, and and then start moving up.
That's it. I can't see you talking all that crap though, man. You know, it's just you're too much of a nice guy for that sort of thing. You know, I think the most I've ever seen you get angry was, I think, well, not even angry, is after your fight where you threw your gum shield at the floor. I was like, whoa, where'd that come from, Carl? You know, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Please take that as a compliment, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I'm usually a pretty calm and collected guy, until I'm in the cage, then then I kind of let everything out. So
That's it, mate. That's it. And I'm going to repeat myself again. Kyle, I cannot wait to see you fight in the cage again. Let's hope they get this all lifted. You never know. They might offer it behind closed doors. Fight's a fight. I'm sure you're happy to take it behind closed doors. That'd be interesting, though, wouldn't it? Did you see one of the most recent UFC cards? There was no
yeah,
one in the audience. That was odd. You could hear every punch landing, and it was very odd.
yeah, yeah,
What
for sure. I mean, if we need to do a fight like that in an arena with no fans, I'm down for that. If we need to go on a boat, I'll fight on a boat, on a plane, on a spaceship, whatever. I'm doing.
Now that'd be interesting on a plane up the aisle. That'd be very interesting. Any, anyway, man, I'll tell you what, I'll let you go because I know you've had a hard training session today. I'm sure you're going to go see some of the family soon. Just before I let you go, man, as always, give a shout out to any of your sponsors, gyms, and any of the people that help you get to where you are today.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So obviously my sponsors, I have Moose Delaney's, the Sport Lab, Sheath Underwear, Muskoka Renos, Cooler Meal Management Bags, Urban Beard, Tiggs for him and her, Copperhead Distillery, Highlander Brew Co., and Sire Biosciences. And then obviously my gyms, House of Champions with Lynn Halmagine, my wrestling coach, Adrian Woolley, all my training partners here, everyone at Parabellum for helping me out. And, thank you to you for having me on and giving me a platform to talk about the sport that I love.
Anytime, Carl. As I said, you're always welcome to come on the show. And again, I'm the one who's had a pleasure of having you come on the show. So again, thank you very much. You're our first UFC fighter on the show, which has only been going for 3 days. So I do appreciate that. And hey, we'll be speaking again in the not too distant future, I'm sure.
Awesome. Sounds great.
Oh, one more thing. Make sure everyone goes and buy. Let everyone know where they can buy any merchandise or follow you on social networking as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So you can follow me on Instagram at the monster 705 underscore UFC. Facebook is just Kyle the Monster Nelson, and Twitter is the underscore monster. And then just send me a direct message on there if you're interested in shirts or hats or anything. Yeah.
That's it. You heard it here first. Give the man a shout and make sure you all follow his career, because this is one name you don't want to be missing out on. Carl, again, thank you very much, mate, and we'll be speaking soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll talk soon.
Cheers, mate. Have a great day.